In a small village in Europe, the people live in constant fear of a dreadful dragon. The beast is known for its ruthlessness towards humans. In order to appease this dragon, the villagers sacrifice their young maidens in a ritual. On each occasion, the dragon selects one maiden and abducts her. This ritual continues for years until a brave knight travels to the dragon's island to rescue his beloved. But when he discovers that she's already dead, he engages in a fierce battle with the dragon and defeats it. He was hoping that she'd been cucking him with the dragon and that he could join in. The knight ultimately frees his people from fear and gets titled as the Dragon Slayer. Now, the dreaded ritual is transformed into a wedding ceremony. The scene then fast forwards to many years later, when the young princess Miroslava, Mira for short, is betrothed to the Dragon Slayer's grandson, Igor. Her father and sister think she's immature because she still likes fairy tales and playing with toys. Nonetheless, they prepare her for the wedding before escorting out of the palace. Mira is placed on a boat deck which will be sent across the water towards her future husband. As Igor pulls her boat towards him, his people sing the ancient ritual song in honor of his grandfather, the Dragon Slayer. Suddenly, a fierce storm overtakes them and the dragon, who was thought to have been dead, shows up again, terrifying everyone. It captures Mira from the ceremony and throws her inside a cave on a remote island. A while later, she regains consciousness and finds the hole she'd fallen from. She tries climbing up, but a wolf-like creature startles her, causing her to fall back down. The creature descends and growls menacingly, prompting Mira to arm herself with a stone. Just then, she hears a male voice that urges her to throw the stone away and lie down. The creature then approaches her, but it leaves without harming her. Following this, Mira asks about the person's identity and requests to help her out. However, the person tells her that he can't do so, leading Mira to assume that he's also a captive. She then proceeds to inquire more about the place and the dragon, but the person responds that it's not safe for them to talk and refuses to explain anything. Desperate for aid, Mira pounds on the wall and pleads for help, but she eventually stumbles due to her injuries. Seeing this, the man offers her a paste made from crushed leaves for her wounds. What it's not going to do, anything leaves don't do. Through the hole, Mira looks at the man's face that doesn't look like a prisoner. She then introduces herself, but the man cannot recall his own name, as he never needed it. Later on, Mira devises a plan to kill the wolf and flee while the dragon is asleep. However, the man claims that they can't escape the dragon, no matter how much they try. Mira then calls him a coward and shuts the hole in anger. Determined to make her way out, she cuts her braided hair and starts making a makeshift rope. During this, the man tries to talk to her, saying that he's not a coward, it's just that the dragon is unbeatable. He even apologizes to her, prompting her to remove the rock from the hole. After this, she bestows the name Armin upon him, which she thinks is exotic and mysterious like him. And she just watched the Attack on Titan finale and it was badass. She then extends her hand for a handshake, but as soon as they touch one another, the dragon pulls him away. Armin warns her about the dragon and asks her to stay hidden. Soon after, the dragon shows up above Mira, which scares the life out of her. After it leaves, Mira tries to call out for Armin, but there's no response. Maybe this is more like Attack on Titan than she thought. Left alone, she tries using her hair as a rope to climb up, but her efforts prove to be futile. Frustrated, she grabs a big rock and starts banging on the wall. Surprisingly, the wall crumbles, revealing a hole big enough for her to pass by. Following this, she walks out and heads towards the exit. She walks through the passway. The dragon begins chasing her. In a state of panic, she runs away and enters another hole. The dragon blows fire on the hole, but she manages to slip inside. She then reaches an edge, which is much higher from the ground level. Before she can advance further, Armin shows up and tries to stop her. To her astonishment, the wolf obeys his commands and she finally realizes that he's, in fact, the dragon called it. Armin tries to calm her down, promising to explain everything, but Mira walks backwards and falls off. As she plummets down in the air, Armin catches her. His body glows red and he turns into the dragon seconds before they hit the ground. He saves her life, but he hits the ground and gets injured in the process. Shortly after, the dragon reverts to Armin's form. Assuming it as a threat, Mira considers crushing him with a rock. However, she can't bring herself together to do it. She feels bad about Armin's condition, so she starts helping him instead. She pulls him to an empty space and eventually collapses beside him. A few moments later, the asleep Armin mutters that the dangerous dragon fire within him poses a grave threat to everyone and needs to be taken out right then. His body emits a red glow and teeters on the brink of transforming into a dragon, but he collapses once more. After this, SMA descends to the shoreline and cries out for help, but there's no one to answer her. Shortly after, she spots an old boat washed ashore, momentarily raising her hopes of escaping. However, she abandons the idea when a storm hits the sea. As a result, she runs back to Armin and uses a broken ship mast to create an improvised shelter. Once done, she again hears Armin murmuring something. Seeing that he's injured, she applies the leaf paste to his wound and bandages it with her sleeves. As she touches him, his body begins to glow red, but she calms him down by singing a lullaby, which surprisingly works. Eventually, Mira also falls asleep beside him. She will complete the privacy by cucking Igor with this dragon. The following morning, she wakes up to find herself wrapped in a blanket and a piece of fruit left by Armin. After eating it, she heads down to the shore where she finds him catching fish. She inquires why won't simply take her home if he has no intention of killing her. In response, Armin explains that it's not as simple as it seems. He then proceeds to share his life story, recounting how he never wanted to become a dragon like his father. But upon witnessing his father being killed, he was overcome with rage that transformed him into a dragon. Despite this tragedy, he vowed to live as a human. For this, he isolated himself on the island to prevent himself from killing humans. When he sensed the uncontrollable transition to dragon form, he would go into a narrow cave where the dragon couldn't escape, and remain there until reverting to human form. Armin asserts that everything was going well until he heard the ritual song during Mira's wedding. According to him, the dragon inside him awakens every time she touches him, which is the reason why he can't drop her home. Furthermore, he says that the island is bewitched, so only those who are loved by someone on the island can find the way to it. In the middle of their conversation, Armin stumbles and falls, but he warns her not to help him, fearing that the dragon might awaken. Mira assures him that it hasn't emerged yet and indicates that his human side is getting stronger. She then promises to teach him how to live as a human while she awaits Igor's arrival. In the next scene, Mira decides to transform Armin's den into a more human-like place. They work together on using shipwrecked items and washed-up stuff to decorate the space. Days pass, and the two begin to enjoy each other's company. Eventually, they succeed in turning the once empty den into a beautiful haven. While staying there, Mira presents Armin with a flute that plays a lullaby tune. In return, he surprises her with some fireworks, leaving the girl mesmerized. One night, Mira awakens to an unusual sound and begins searching for Armin. Soon after, she comes across the dragon and bravely extends her hand to touch it. However, upon contact, the dragon becomes uncontrollable and starts pursuing her. Suddenly, Mira snaps out, revealing that it was just a nightmarish dream. She finds Armin in front of her, visibly worried. She confesses her fear of dragons, to which Armin reassures her that the dragon will never harm her. The following day, Mira swims in a natural pool while Armin holds some flowers in his hand. It appears that he's contemplating expressing his love for her but is too nervous to do so. Moments later, the dragon begins to possess his body, causing the flowers to burn. Sensing the transformation, he runs to a cliff and tries to calm himself down. Mira soon locates him and shows him a kite she has made. Armin asks for the reason why Igor hasn't come yet, but she doesn't have an answer. It's evident that she doesn't want him to come as she's slowly falling in love with Armin. Later that night, Armin finds a boat on the shore and assumes that Mira is attempting to escape. He then confronts her and leads her to an altar, where he reveals the true reason for the dragons bringing maidens to the island. According to him, the dragons burn the young girls to death, and from the ashes of each girl, a new dragon is born, which is how Armin was also born. He warns that the same fate awaits Mira. He also claims that he's a monster who will never live as humans do and that it's right for her to fear him. Armin then says that he has been noting her actions for several days. He believes that she is collecting washed-up items to examine maps, using fireworks as a signal, and the boat as a means of escape. He finally orders her to leave the very next day. Mira attempts to clarify the misunderstanding, but the enraged Armin tosses her flute away, breaking her heart. Early in the morning, Mira boards the boat and sets sail. Elsewhere, Igor and his men are seen searching for her, but their efforts prove fruitless. Igor, who doesn't share the same courage as his grandfather, contemplates turning back. However, his helmsman reminds him of his oath and prevents him from doing so to protect the honor of his family name. In the midst of their dispute, fireworks illuminate the sky, and Mira emerges from the fog. They quickly bring her aboard and inquire about the dragon. To prevent Armin from any harm, she lies that the dragon fell off a cliff and perished. In the next scene, we see Mira once again being prepared for her wedding with Igor, although she doesn't look happy about it. On the other hand, Armin is also overwhelmed with sadness, uncertain about how to continue living without Mira. Nonetheless, he holds gratitude for the happy moments she left behind. He bids her farewell and heads towards the cliff, clutching her flute in his hand. He then jumps off, intending to commit the unthinkable. As Armand plummets through the air, his inner dragon awakens, but he manages to soothe it by playing the flute. Simultaneously, Mira is placed in a boat, and Igor begins to pull her across the water. But in the midway, she realizes that she still loves Armand and cannot live without him. As a result, she gets up and declares that she doesn't love Igor. Taken aback, Igor reminds her of how he saved her, but Mira yells that she loves the dragon. Following this, she proceeds to sing the ritual song to summon her love. Igor tries to warn her about the consequences, while her father and sister watch with tears in their eyes. As she completes singing, the dragon shows up and recaptures Mira, taking her back to the island. He places her on the altar, but this time, she isn't scared. She confesses her love for him, which soon melts away Armand's anger. He then rests his head on her lap, allowing her to caress him. Years later, Armand and Mira are seen living together on the island, and they now have a little daughter. After putting their baby to sleep, Mira mounts her dragon husband and they take off together. Subscribe for more videos like this.